Hello everyone, this is Ryan with Ryan School of Business. Got a shot here at La Mesa Park. I thought you guys would like to see that. Nice little view of the Pacific here on this late afternoon. Sun off there, south facing beach, so we may get a little bit of the sunset behind us. And I wanted to talk and continue where we left off regarding inflation and the effects on all of us and how it works out. And I wanted to give you the perspective today, coming from my years of teaching international students and just the delightful discussions we've had in and around life that would happen various times with the lives that they had. And I get this unusual privilege with regard to, say, with 15 to 20 students that many times I will have people from multiple continents and all over Europe and Asia and South America. I have a student right now who actually lives in Madagascar and grew up in Reunion Island down in the Indian Ocean. But we get very unusual perspectives. I'll have everything from Belgians to Saudi Arabians to Brazilians, French Canadians, on and on. We just in my classes and in my groups. Okay, team here in the community. I wanted to show you a little bit here of the Pacific as the sun starts its way down after this afternoon. If you like about 74 degrees Fahrenheit, I guess that's about 23 Celsius. We have it right now towards the evening here as I look out. So my perspective today is to talk about just the wealth of knowledge and sharing and information that comes up in the discussions in my international class. We talk about international economics, international finance, and that's really our avenue to talk about life and what's going on. But this summer, more than ever, since in my 5 years or so, we had a lot of students from Argentina. And I was very impressed with the fact that they were very knowledgeable, even at young ages. I had a 15-year-old student, a 16-year-old student, 18, 19, 20, 25, 30 years old, but in the whole range, it was very consistent. They definitely understood economics and finance, global macroeconomics, even at very young ages. And I remember a 16-year-old in my class, and she was very knowledgeable because I talked a little bit about cryptocurrencies one day, about understanding sort of arbitrage between different price points of currencies and how people would have to do that and how much more difficult that is if you live in a nation with a lot of inflation. And so she raised her hand and she started to talk about where in Argentina where they have 100% inflation and how that works, and when she gets paid or when she gets any money, what she immediately does, and she converts it into the US dollar, and then they try to buy something like Bitcoin or gold and things like that, always looking ahead. Also, the fact that if prices are rapidly going up, one of the things you do is you purchase ahead because you want to store things up, because sometimes they go up in value. So in a lot of ways, it altered the whole purchase decision as well, how people would look at life and how they lived. But what impressed me was really how they had to deal with these problems and come up with strategies and solutions that many, if not most of us, don't have to deal with. But just to give you some perspective of what 100% inflation looks like, it means if one had, say, $30,000 equivalent, or 30,000 euros or Swiss francs, let's say, and you save it, you put it in the bank, you're happy, you had a nice year, and you put away some cash. Well, in that economy, in terms of local currency, 100% inflation looks like at the end of the year that $30,000 equivalent is worth $15,000. and you leave it there another year, it's on its way down to, say, $7,500. So by doing nothing with your money, just saving it, which is good enough. Maybe you had a stock gain. Maybe you had a nice earnings stream or something like that. Maybe your business had a distribution. But then you put it in the bank with 100% inflation. That's what you're dealing with. But these young people frequently understood this, and even with regards to their buying decisions, they were stocking ahead, they were arbitraging as best they could, and they had to become very efficient citizens just really to survive, and very adept in business and those types of things. And many of them want to be entrepreneurs, and many of them want to try to find ways to tackle the net worth situation. Now, as I often say with my students and with friends and my family, hears this too from time to time, but hard, difficult things that we have to overcome and learn to do that consistently can actually be very helpful to us. And I'm thinking about clients I've had before. I've had some clients from Venezuela who left Venezuela and moved to the United States. And I remember meeting, 50 or 60 different business people, all from Venezuela, and I was really amazed at how prosperous and how effective their businesses were run. And they told me that, operating a business in the United States was considerably easier than in Venezuela. And for one of the reasons was the currency strength and also lack of inflation versus what they had. But they had to always be thinking about it and be so efficient and wrest out any type of inefficiencies in the system. So then when they came here, as one of them put it, he goes, this was kind of like kindergarten for us versus we were in high school or college back there. So they would do extremely well here as a result. I've also met people from some other nations it was very difficult for there to be any real prosperity. They get a chance here to grow a business and then be highly successful. So in this current environment with high inflation right now, one of the things we're going to get and we're going to see are higher interest rates. And as I often try to state and teach when I'm working with students, whether it's at university level or college level, or really anyone who will listen, this isn't all bad with rising interest rates. I mean, there are ways. I personally invested in some floating rate notes and some businesses that are able to raise interest rates as interest rates rise, and so their earnings are going up, and a lot of these funds are doing really well because their interest rates float and interest rates are rising, so their earnings are going up, if you will. There's ways to tackle it. Also, for those of you that are savers, this is a good opportunity because you earn better rates than you otherwise would. And now the problem, though, relative to inflation, your real rate of return would not be positive, and that's true. However, eventually, with this high inflation, we're going to have a time where we have something called demand destruction, where the price of items will fall. And it won't always be this high of an inflation rate. And if you have a higher rate investment that you fixed, for example, and interest rates fall, you actually will have a gain there. My point in that is just trying to say there's usually a silver lining, and there's another side to everything we face. And with regard to my Argentinian students, I found that they had some of the best strategic minds and critical thinking skills that I've seen, and many of them very young. And just making it through everyday life took a lot of effort. Okay, continuing with our discussion on silver linings, I read an article today about how this time of year in October, you can probably figure out why, but there's a big increase in the purchases of chocolate and candies, really through worldwide, particularly in the United States. But I saw where the increase in candies and chocolates on average went up about 14.5% year over year from a year ago this time. And I think Skittles may have been the #1 increase, but Snickers bars as well were up considerably. So just to purchase the same amount of chocolate or candy this October versus last year, you'd have to spend quite a bit more. In fact, the 14.5% average increase was the highest really since they've been keeping records along these types of things. The other thing I'm learning as I make videos here, and as I make this video, first of all, before I started this channel, I've really not made many videos, and some of you may say that's obvious, but my heart's in it to try to do it. But one of the things I have learned as I do this and as I try to do it is it's amazing how many people want to watch you as you make your video, and I don't mind that you guys do. I want you to too. But as I'm doing this, people who normally would just keep moving on, it becomes very interesting all of a sudden, and you know, and you'll see them sort of lean forward a little bit to try to make out what you're talking about, what the subject matter is. And sometimes I'll have people respond and tell me I agree with you or something like that as you're doing it after they listen a while. So with that, I'm going to say that there's usually a silver lining. We need to look at it. So the silver lining this year may just be that we'll consume less chocolate and candies, and maybe that's a good thing. But we'll look at the costs, or maybe we'll buy less of it or something like that, or find an alternative. But that will typically happen. But another reason that I'm doing this channel, and I want to have this discussion. Actually, I asked my wonderful daughter what she thought, and of course, hey, I'm her dad, so she's going to talk about you know, how wonderful things are that I do, right? It just sort of happens. But she did mention a very good idea, and one of the reasons that I do this is I want to help you become good analysts economically and financially, and this should help you. And I'm talking to the perspective of having hired many people, having to fire a few, having to hire a lot more, and looking at it. But if you have a good understanding of the business and the markets and the competition and the margins of the business you're looking at, and when you can talk in your interview, so you're going for an interview, you're knowledgeable. When they say, why do you want to work for this company? You can start talking about industry fundamentals, or why the markets look favorable, or why you think this is a promising industry, or how you think rising interest rates might affect it, or markets and things like that. So if you become a good analyst, and if you're more astute, that can be the difference in getting a job. So I want to make a series of videos talking about how learning to be a good analyst, learning how to be a structured thinker, learning how to look at economics, finance, and applying it to your microeconomic environment that you're living in for something that you're applying for, how that can work and really help you. So thanks, Alexa. That's an excellent idea. And it is a reason that I want to do this, to help you in whatever areas of life that you want some guidance from someone who's lived longer, generally speaking. Hopefully I've learned a few things and I can pass it on. All right, so this really did happen while I was making the video talking about candy prices rising. I'm on my way to see my wife after this, and she called me and she said, Rye, do you think on your way there you could stop and pick me up some candy, some chocolates? I was thinking of maybe Snickers. So I can't make this up. So this is literally, I have talked about Snickers prices rising, and my wife asked me to come to the store here. So now I'm gonna go do that and take a look at Snickers bars to see what they cost. So I'm on the hunt here. And there it is. Okay, large Snickers bar. See, I'm not even gonna mess with a little one. I'm getting her king size. Hey, I've told you I'm smart. There you go. Your wife asked for Snickers, you go for it.